Welcome to today's episode on the Spiritual AI podcast. Today's guest is a beautiful, beautiful friend of mine. She's a psychic medium. She's also a meditation therapist and a mentor who has dedicated over a decade of mastering the art of mediumship. With 11 years of study and 4 years of professional experience, she now offers private readings, group demonstrations, and teaches others how to connect to their own intuitive gifts. Her journey also includes a diploma in meditation therapy and holistic counseling, earned back in 2014. Through this, she helps countless clients, especially those navigating anxiety and depression, find calm, clarity, and connection through meditation and spiritual guidance. Her work beautifully bridges the seen and the unseen, offering both practical support and spiritual insights to those in need. Whether she's holding space in private sessions or leading groups, her mission remains clear: to help others feel seen, supported, and spiritually empowered. Welcome to the podcast, Nicky.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. What a welcome. Intro.
What an intro. I'm really excited to have you here. Now, I cannot remember when and where we actually met. I know that we've been in and out of each other's lives for the last few years at least.
Yeah.
It has to be almost 10 years.
Oh, longer. It was on one of Donna's retreats way back. Yeah.
Oh, that is way back.
Yeah.
Wow.
Time
It
ago.
has been, it's been a beautiful journey. So what I want to do is I wanted to ask you to just tell us a little bit about Nicky. Who are you? Where do you come from? And kind of what got you to this point where you are now? What led you to this point in your journey?
Wow. Where do I start? I mean, that intro was amazing. That said quite a bit. But yeah, I guess I've always been interested in the spiritual growing up. I had a couple of little experiences where I thought I saw a fairy come through my curtains in my bedroom and things like that. That was when I was very little. Yeah, and then my spark for it just grew. I used to go watch mediums in action and just think, oh, wow, they're amazing. Like I'd love to be able to do that, but never thought that, I'd ever be able to. Yeah, and then, gosh, around about the year 2000, I had an experience. Before that, I'd had a couple of dreams come true and things like that. So I kind of had a feeling that, I had something going on, but not really sure exactly what. Yeah, and I had this experience just before the millennium new year kicked over, where I woke up and I had someone standing right next to me. So that, I mean, it scared the heck out of me, of course. Never felt my heart beat so hard out of my chest. But I realized now that was one of my guides, and that kind of just really started everything for me. Yeah, and then just slowly but surely things started happening, and I got into, once my boys were a little bit older, I started, obviously thinking about myself and what I wanted to do, and I started reading this book. It was, what was it called? Something about intuition, following your intuition. And yeah, it started asking all these questions and, little meditations and little exercises to do. And I thought, yeah, this is amazing. And it started really, started my journey of my self-connection, really. Yeah, and then, so from there, I was like, I really want to do meditation. I really want to teach it. And so I got onto my phone and I was looking at all these different things, but they're all just little weekend classes and, or do this and then you qualified. And I thought that's not enough. That's not deep enough. So I ended up finding this one in Queensland, this place in Queensland. And I thought, oh, it's in Queensland, I can't do it. And then my phone froze and I tried to get off the page, but it wouldn't let me. And then I realized they actually did online courses. So I spent nearly a whole year doing all the different sections on their courses before, attaining the full diploma. So that set me on my journey. And during that whole year, it was basically a lot of self-connection, a lot of, inner growth, let's say, and development. So that in 2014, I became qualified and I started teaching meditation classes. And I did that for a couple of years and I loved it. But then I started to feel pulled towards helping people with depression and anxiety, because part of the things that I was learning was all about stress response and everything that's
Mm.
inside your body. And it was quite amazing how much people don't know about the stress response, and,
Yeah.
being able to empower people to understand what's going on and why they feel so out of control. I thought was amazing. And yeah, so I kind of went down that path, helping people, and yeah, really had some amazing things going on, and helping people rise and empower themselves with that. So that was that side of things. So
Yeah.
in there, I also did Reiki with Anne Marie and became a Reiki 2 practitioner. But then I started having more and more things going on psychically, picking things up off people more and
Mm.
more. Yeah, so I don't know when exactly the mediumship started fitting in with all of that at some point. Like we said,
Yeah.
those retreats were, I think, about 15 years ago now. Those ones. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, and then I started getting into the mediumship. Yeah, and I actually went to my first class going, you know what, this is going to show if I have something or I don't. And I
Mm.
actually blew myself away in that class. I mean, not to say that I was that good all the time after that. It was hit and miss for a while. But yeah, that first class really was like, oh my gosh. So that started me on my
You
path.
actually have the connection.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
And
remember that feeling.
yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, it was, the whole journey's been 2 steps forward, 5 steps back at times, but yeah, it's just
Yeah.
keep going and you just get better and better. And yeah, so now I'm doing the mediumship, doing
Mm.
readings and helping other people as well with that. Yeah, it's amazing. I absolutely love it. It's just beautiful to be able to
Mm.
do it, and yeah, just connect for people and just have some just absolutely amazing stuff come through. It's just, yeah,
Yeah.
wonderful.
It is, right. So thank you for sharing that. So, so what I want to just kind of speak into here, because there's this exercise that I do with my students and clients, and it's around life purpose, right? And you've just kind of laid out kind of your time, like the timeline of your life, and you've touched on all these points, and you can see how beautifully you've been prepared and set up in every way. The puzzle pieces have kind of been put in place to kind of get you to this point now where everything, like all your gifts, all your skills, because the meditation would support you in your own connection with the divine, right? And then the meditation can support your clients with their connection, and then your own psychic gifts and your own dreams and your own everything else just comes beautifully together into this one thing that we now call mediumship, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Because a medium is psychic, right?
yes, yeah,
Is all those other things, whereas a psychic is not always necessarily a medium.
yeah.
So yeah, it's just beautifully, like as you're sitting here talking, I'm like going, oh, timeline.
Yeah,
So
I do
yeah,
look back and I think it's quite amazing, and I do feel very strongly that doing all of the meditation and self connection before, or mixed in with
yeah,
all my journey of the psychic mediumship was so important. Like, I just can't stress the value of that for me, because I do feel like I was able to connect in a better sense. With myself, obviously, but get a bit deeper with my
yeah,
mediumship. I found it easier at time, not that it was always easy, but yeah,
no,
I feel really strongly that it's really important. And that's why with my students, I do run the meditation first. I start people from the very start and then
mm,
take them into mediumship if they've had no experience in actual meditation. And yeah, I
yeah,
think they're absolutely invaluable. Yeah.
it is, because the meditation brings you into the space of it's creating space. It's where awareness and intuition really starts, right? Now, as we are like I'm all about awareness and intuition, right? So for
Mhm.
me, I can see how sitting in a space of meditation creates the space for you to then create awareness about yourself, awareness about other energies that come in, and then also it helps you build that intuitive connection with
Yeah.
with the other side, with spirit, with the universe, with God, however you want to see it. So,
Mhm.
um, what, so I know that you've just said that meditation is really the first step, but what is one of the first things that you would teach somebody who is starting out on this journey of, tapping into becoming psychic, or, tapping into mediumship? What is one of the first things that you would say, like, start here? Like, don't go and fluff around with all the other stuff. Start here.
Well, definitely the self-connection first. I mean,
Yeah.
you've got to know yourself and your own energy. It's not to say that you're perfect all the time, but understanding, what you're going through each day, like just having that little bit of self-connection, just sitting and being in your own energy first. It's so important. That does take you on that journey, that bit of soul journey, and starting out on actually, dealing with some things you might not want to look at and things like that. But yeah, that side of things is really important. Um, what else? Obviously, we talk about starting to learn the clairs and things like that. But even before getting into any of that, I would definitely start with I think the best meditation is Zen meditation. You know what that is, right? Um,
So, I like teaching clients the basics. I like bringing people back to foundation. So for the
yeah.
listener who doesn't know what it is, tell them, like, why would you start there? What makes it so powerful?
Because Zen meditation, you're sitting and you're being in the present moment. So you're trying not to think. Everybody does, but you let the thoughts come in and then you let them float on by. But you're being very present, and you're just listening to the sounds, feeling the feelings in your body that are going on, but just listening to the sounds in the room, and then, the world beyond. You might hear the birds singing and cars going past and things like that. So that's a really, really good one, just to sit and be present and try and clear your mind. And then when we talk about moving on into mediumship, or psychic awareness or intuition, that's what we're doing when people talk about sitting in your power. We're just sitting there first of all and just being very present. Focusing on the breath, bringing ourselves back home to ourselves first. And then, if you are leading into mediumship, that's when you're opening up your energy and things like that. So, or even if you're just wanting to, feel into your own intuition, that for me, the Zen meditation is the starting point for that. It leads really nicely, flows really nicely into then working with the energies and things like that. Yeah, so I spend about 3 or 4 classes getting people into actual meditation, understanding the breathing and everything like that. And we do about 2 or 3 different types of meditation, and then we do relaxation exercises as well. Then I take them through the stress response and then ways to calm down your body and things like that as well. And yeah, so I take people through all of that first. Then we lead into the chakra energies, and learn all about those and how to open our energy and work with it. And then I take them into the psychic clairs. So yeah, so that's all like kind of one side of it. But my other side would be for people to be working on their confidence in life. We can go so deeply into intuition and the clairs and everything like that, but I'd say it's just as important to work on your own self-confidence out in the world as well. Yeah, I do find that's hugely important, because you do get a lot of people in this field, people learning as well, people just interested. There's a lot of people out there suffering from anxiety and depression and things like that. So we have to get a handle on all of that and our own confidence, to be able to then come in and do things, even to be able to understand your own intuition. Because what's the biggest thing that gets in the way of your intuition?
Is the mind.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah.
You're spot on. Like, the way you kind of build up on things, I can see it. What I find interesting is that, and this is not this is going to be a general statement, right? This is not going to be aimed at, at Zen meditation as such. But I find that if you look at all these different spiritual practices, it can become so confusing when we use all these different words, and we explain it in all these different spiritual woo-woo ways. When, if you really bring it down to the basics, like what you were saying, is, so Zen meditation essentially is sitting and becoming aware.
Yeah. Yeah.
aware of your body, aware of your breath, aware of the sound, aware of sight, what you're seeing, what you're feeling. It is the awareness of the sending and receiving of energy, right? Is what are you receiving? How are you receiving it?
Mm.
If you're sitting in a state of meditation and your neighbor all of a sudden starts mowing the lawn and you go, oh my God, that oh my God moment is the moment of awareness. Why are you getting frustrated at him mowing his lawn? Right?
Mm.
If you like, yeah, I can see there's something coming up for you. So that's what meditation is. That's what awareness is. So all of these, so I did on Instagram, I did some reels and on YouTube, a series on spiritual language, because when I look at things through this filter of awareness and intuition, through this filter of how is the newcomer, the newbie in the spiritual realm, the person who's just waking up, how are they perceiving it? The language is very confusing sometimes, and it
Yeah.
really is just awareness. Become aware of who you are, become
Yep.
aware of your thoughts. And the more awareness you bring in, the more you'll realize that you're having this one thought that just keeps ruining your day, or that keeps doing, you keep having the same outcome because you have the same thoughts, right? And
Yes.
then you realize that you can actually change the thought, and then with that awareness, you change the thought, and you have the awareness that your life is changing. So, yeah, it's very interesting that it's the underlying theme through all of this is really that sense of self-awareness, that sense of awareness. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, yeah, and yeah, I was gonna say, and in thinking about that self-awareness, it's also being kind to yourself as well, because none of us are perfect.
No.
So
Yeah.
I think this day and age, there's so much, people are posting all this positive stuff and everything.
Yeah.
I do it myself. I don't like to be negative on social media, but just because we do that, it doesn't mean that we're perfect. And I think we all judge ourselves based on what we see from everybody else. But we
Oh,
all have
yeah, of course.
to find ourselves in that awareness, because none of us are perfect. We're all dealing with different things we struggle with. So yeah, I think having that awareness, but also being kind to yourself in that as well. Mm.
It absolutely is. And it's the self-love and the kindness and the compassion that we often give to other people. We need to
Yes,
give to ourselves more,
definitely.
right? Yeah,
Yeah.
sitting in that space. So I wanna I wanna dive in. Let me ask you this, okay? So because I'm gonna like my brain's going there, my intuition's going there. So let's go to intuition, right?
Hmm.
What would you say for somebody who's only starting out with intuition? What would you say? Is there a technique, or is there a something that you can give to the audience to help them tap into their own intuition?
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of things you can do, but what I would suggest first is figuring out your yes and your no in your body, or your when things feel positive or negative. So there's an exercise that I do with my classes that I get them to stand up. We get
Yeah.
into breathing and getting feeling connected, um, and then I basically ask them just some basic questions. Like I just say things like limes are purple and things like silly things, but also, so some statements are true and some are false. So we
Mm,
figure out where in their body they feel their yes and their no. So
mhm,
for me, I feel my yes is in my chest. I feel quite expansive. It feels positive and happy. And I feel my nose around my solar plexus, around
mhm,
your tummy. And that feels like kind of dark and kind of like contracted feeling. So that's my yeses and my nos. And then we go through and we do positives and negatives. So if something feels, so that's a bit more of the emotional side of things. So I'll get
mm,
them to, I'll say, bring to mind the saddest day of your life, or, then the happiest, and things like that. So they can feel emotionally as well where it's connected. So, yeah, and then most people feel it in their chest and their tummy, but other people feel it in different places too. Or some
mm,
people feel drawn towards something if it's a yes or positive, or, back away from something if it's a
mm,
negative. So, and then we have fun, and we just do different exercises and games.
mm,
We spent a few weeks usually doing that, and it's just simple things like, guess which cup the ping pong ball's under, or which envelope has the $5, or
mm,
silly fun things like that.
Yeah.
But then you can take that out into life, right? I know you play different games with traffic lights and things like that.
Yeah.
So I just, make suggestions like when you go into a shopping parking lot, feel where your intuition takes you, where you're going to get that, that car park. It's amazing how often it works so well. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just about like having little games like that starting to come in and learning to trust your intuition, and it is hard though sometimes, isn't it? Because you get, say if you're driving home and you get told to go a certain way, in your head, you usually go a certain way. But then if you go off, go this way today. So you're like, okay, you're never going to know if you avoided a crash or if a dog was going to run out in front of you or something like that. So it is a big trust thing.
It's the trust. Yeah.
Yeah. But I do sometimes say to people as well, like sometimes go against it. If it's something that's not going to necessarily hurt you, like for example, I went out my front door one day to put the bins out, and I was in my intuition said to me, put some shoes on because you're going to get something in your foot. And I didn't listen, and I went outside and got something in my foot. But with things like that, sometimes it is good not to listen because it's taught you that your intuition was right.
Oh yeah. It's gonna teach you.
Yeah.
and it you know what? It doesn't even for us who've been on this journey for so long, we still get it wrong some days. We still get it wrong some days. We will still go out there without shoes on and then we'll get something in our foot, right?
Yeah.
So it's just know that if you're on the beginning of your journey and you get it wrong, there's nothing wrong with you. Okay, because even after so many years, we still get it wrong. And the reason we get it wrong is because we are in a rush. Most of the time, we are in a rush. And that subtle voice that drops into our head, that voice of our soul, our intuition drops in. And because we're rushing, we don't give ourselves time to respond or time to fully receive what we're getting. And that's when things happen, right? I actually had something like this, and I want to give another example because I think it's really important for people to understand that this is something that's not just spiritual. It literally can save your life, right? It can save you from an accident. I was sitting in front of, I went to go and print the first few chapters of my book that I'm writing at the moment, and at Officeworks, and I was sitting in the car park, and I was sitting next to a large SUV, so I couldn't see what was coming if there was traffic. And as I was about to drive out to leave, my intuition said fast car, and I just kept my foot on the brake. And within a split second, there was this little yellow car that came zooming past. Had I not responded in that moment, I would have had an accident. Like I literally would have had a really bad accident because this car was coming at quite a bit of speed. So awareness and intuition, so intuition as what we're talking about now really can support you in everyday life. It helps you remember the shopping list. It helps you put on your shoes when you go outside. It's really, really important. Yeah.
Yeah, I've got a fantastic example of that. Before we moved into this house we're in right now, I was walking by it, and I was down on the next street, and I was on this really wide path, and I just turned down it. I actually walked up there the other day and was thinking how wide it was. You could fit about 5 people across it, shoulder to shoulder.
Wow.
Yeah, and I just turned down the street and I kind of looked up, and there was a guy on a bike miles away from me. And the moment I looked at him, I got this voice in my head that said, watch out for this guy. So I was like, oh, okay. Because I didn't even have time to even process or, look at him or anything. It was straight there. So I was like, that's not me. That's my intuition. So I just watched him as he got closer, and then he's coming up, and I'm like, geez, he's really not moving over to the other side of the path. So I had my phone in my hand on the side he was going to come down on. And I just watched him, and I had my James does jiu-jitsu and martial arts, so I was training with him at the time, and I had my jumper on that had our logo on it. So as this guy got closer, I had my husband's voice in my head saying, stand up straight and look the person straight in the eye, show you're not going to be a victim. So I did that. But then as he came, I swapped my phone from my right hand to my left, and I had to step out onto the road, and he still brushed my arm. So he was going to do
Wow.
something. I don't know if he was going to steal my phone or try and touch me, or I don't know what his intentions were. But he
Yeah.
looked me in the eye as he rode straight past me and just brushed me. And I had to step out onto the road to get away from him. So, and then he rode up the street and he turned around, came back. So luckily I got into the park and there's people there. But yeah, that to me, that was a perfect example. And I was so grateful. I was just, yeah, because if I'd just been oblivious, you know, who knows what.
Yeah, he could have hurt you. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that was quite amazing, that one. So
That
yeah.
is. Yeah, it is,
Yes.
right? It's actually, you know, I know we're talking about you know, the bad things that can happen, like the car accident or your accident with this guy. It's really, it's really, really helpful when you forget your shopping list. When you're rushing out the door. Like so many days, you know, so Chloe's, one of her friends will come over. I'll have a sleepover and then I'll have to kind of take them to the train station the next day or when they're going home. That when we get in the car, I've learned now that I would quite often I'd get a nudge to check in with them and just say, have you got your phone? Have you got all your clothes? Have you got this? Have you got this? Because more often than not, they have forgotten something. And if we get halfway to the train station and they want it, they need it, I need to come all the way back. So intuition is not just for spiritual stuff. It's not just to, you know, help with the, you know, the big things, the accidents, you know, the things that could be life changing. It's there to support us on like a moment to moment basis. And the more we
Yeah,
tap into this intuitive voice, this inner voice, almost the easier life becomes. There's more
definitely.
flow. There's more flow. There's always going to be ups and downs. We're human. There's no human on this planet that doesn't have up and down days. Okay.
Yeah,
That's
sure.
just the human experience. But the more we have awareness and the more we tap into this inner voice, our intuition, life just flows. It
Mm,
just flows so much better.
yes, definitely.
Yeah.
And it does actually, I like to refer to it as my internal compass. You know, it helps
It will,
so much better. But it does
yeah.
also need you to be less emotional in a lot of situations too, like less attached to the emotions. I'm not saying, you know,
True.
I never get emotional. Of course we all do, but it does help you to navigate through things like that, doesn't it?
It does. So on this journey, and you'll recognize this, but you know, life is like a spiral, and the more, actually, the spiral doesn't really apply in this moment. But the more awareness and intuition you have, the more we trust this inner compass, as you say, right? This voice of our soul, the quicker we actually transition through situations, right? So whereas it would have taken you, you know, maybe 6 months to a year when, let's say, Aunt Jenny did something and, you know, it caused like gossip in the family, and then you get upset and then you sit and you kind of, you just mull it over, like, and then for the next year you don't speak to them and it's just this horrible situation. When you have that inner compass, when you have the intuition, when you have the awareness of what's going on, quite often we filter through what that is in a much shorter time frame. So where it would have taken you a year, you know, it might take you 6 days, or it might literally take you 6 seconds if you're at that stage where you have so much awareness of what's happening, you know, because they might have said something and you know that Aunt Jenny was, you know, abused as a child. So she was projecting what she was saying onto you. So you know it's not yours, so therefore I let it go. And that's
Yeah.
your 6 seconds, it's gone.
Hmm.
Whereas in the past, if you didn't have the awareness and you didn't have the intuitive knowledge, that compass, you know, to guide you and show you what was going on, it would have taken you like a whole year to sit in the mess. So
Yeah,
yeah, it is quite powerful.
it is.
Yeah, beautiful. So I wonder if we, because you've touched on the clays a couple of times now, so I'm wondering if we could um, dive into them in some way, shape, or form. Why don't you tell the audience about each one, and maybe how they can find out what their strongest sense is?
Oh, that's a lot.
I know it's a lot, right? So just just kind of go with it. Just see what comes up, because we're going to just, we've been kind of going by intuition, just kind of following the thread. So I do feel I want to touch on that. So what are,
Yeah.
let's do this, break this down. So what are the main clair senses, the psychic senses?
Well, there is 8. I'll try and remember them all. I have to count on my fingers.
Yeah.
So we have clairvoyance, which is
Yeah.
the clear seeing. So most people know clairvoyance.
Yeah.
Clairaudience. So that's when we're hearing things. That's quite a big one for me. I get a lot of songs in my readings, which helps me to. It might be song lines or little messages in a paragraph of the song or things like that.
Yeah.
Claircognizance, which is the clear knowing. So that's when we just get a thought just come through. We don't know how we know it, but we know it. That's 3. What else is there? Clairsentience, which is the physical feelings in your body. Clairempathy, which is feeling emotions. So you will feel like you just suddenly feel quite teary and upset, or you feel really happy. What's that? 5. We've got clairtangency, which is the holding an object. For me, that's not really a massive one that I rely on very much. What else is there? There's 2 more. Put me on the spot here, Leonie. trying to think of the other 2. Taste and smell. So clairgustance and clairsalience. So that's when we might smell, get the smell of cigarette smoke. We might taste chocolate or feel like we're eating bacon or things like that as well.
Yeah.
So I think for most people, the strongest would be, the ones like clairvoyance. So the
Clairvoyance.
seeing images, seeing little reels of things playing out. And then everybody else from there is kind of different, aren't they? Do you have your stronger ones?
So, okay, so my experience with this is that so the clear emotion, that I feel like what they've done is they've broken clairsentience into like a little splinter. And the other one that you mentioned as well, the touch one, that was when we first started, that's psychometry. So and that could also be put under clairsentience, is the feeling, right? So yes, in any case. So my stronger sense is claircognizance. Like I just have a knowing. And you cannot, like, once I have that knowing, you can't shake me, right? My my second sense is clairsentience. My third is clairvoyance. So what I do when clients come in, I run with the kind of the 5 main psychic senses, and then I have this questionnaire that people can go through to kind of see which is their stronger sense. Now, we all have that first stronger sense, right? And we kind of develop the other ones as we go along. So most of us have all of them, but you've got one strong one and then the rest kind of falls in. When I first started on my psychic journey, on my spiritual journey, when I was like in my teens, right? I thought that being psychic meant that you needed to be clairvoyant, because that's like, they psychics see things, right? So for the longest time, didn't think that I was psychic because I couldn't see. Clairvoyance wasn't my strongest sense. It was only when I kind of in later years that I realized that I actually was psychic. And I was quite, I was like deeply psychic. But it wasn't clairvoyance, it was claircognizance. So it's important for people to know that being psychic doesn't mean just seeing things. There's other ways of receiving information, right? And this then comes back down to intuition and awareness, right? So how you were saying, how do you receive the information in your body? How do you receive the yes? How do you receive the no? How do you receive information from spirit, right? So yeah. So tell us, do you, what else can you tell us around the psychic senses? That I feel like there's something there. So I'm just going to keep with it. Let's just keep following that thread.
Yeah, I feel like I want to say, even though we use those psychic senses, we are also using our intuition to interpret those things.
Yes.
Like, you might receive an image, but that image might come through with a feeling, and then sometimes your brain still does get in the way, right? So that it's using your intuition to know whether that feels right to say or not. So it
Yes.
does. We are using all those psychic clairs when we're doing a reading. I kind of think I've got I use the main five, and then the other three are like the icing on top of the cake.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then but you are using your intuition to feel into the things that you're about to blurt out are right, or no, that doesn't feel quite right.
Mm.
So yeah, it's really important. So you've got your clairs, but you've also working it into your intuition at the same time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is. So I quite often, when I talk about intuition, I will, I will, I have this awareness that it's very closely related to psychic. And when I talk about psychic things, I'm very aware that it's actually quite closely related to intuition. So I think once you get on this journey, and if you do go, deeper into this journey, into like the psychic stuff and the medium stuff, you'll find that they weave together. They kind of cross over. They merge. They bleed into each other. So how does psychic differ? How does a psychic differ from a medium? Why don't you share that with the audience for us?
Well, mediumship is connecting with spirit. So when we talk about a medium, it's like, connecting to the loved ones in spirit, receiving the messages that way. You're still using your psychic skills to make that connection. Psychic, I teach psychic, it's more using your intuition, and it's picking up information from the person, if you are doing a reading, from the person in front of you. So that's where so you can still go and see a psychic, just a purely psychic person, and have a beautiful reading, because they'll be talking about things that are going on in your life, and the things that they're picking up from you. But yeah, when we talk, there's a difference when you talk about mediumship, because you're also picking up the information from spirit. It comes in exactly the excuse me, I'm playing with my voice now. It comes in exactly the same way through your clairs and using your intuition. It's just that you're connecting with spirit to do that. So
Yeah, yeah, it is true. Beautiful. Yeah, that was also a distinction that I had to kind of learn, is that all mediums are psychic, but not all psychics are mediums.
yeah.
So yeah, if you do go for a reading, then just be aware, the audience, listener, if you are going to go for a reading, just be aware that there is a difference. I feel like I want to go into like what are some things that people need to be aware of when they start their psychic journey? What are some downfalls? What are some things that, like, if we talk about psychic attack, but what are some things that people need to be mindful of as they grow or step into this spiritual journey, specifically around being psychic?
I would say one of the biggest things I do notice is people are very fearful. Like, they would have had experiences in their life, and they're coming to see me, and they're like, this happened and I saw this, and it really freaked me out. But so me, the biggest thing for a lot of people is getting over the fear. Um,
Yeah,
I know now there's absolutely nothing to like. I'm okay. I'm not going to say anything against anybody who has had experiences, and they have that fear, because I can only say what I experienced. But
yeah,
for me, of course, when I first started out, because I kept seeing spirit next to my bed, I used to freak out, until
yeah,
now. The more that I work with spirit and I understand, they're just coming to say hello, and that's for me, that's what I've experienced, and I've never.
yeah,
Once I've learnt to control it and get over my own fears, there's never been any fear in that
mm,
sense. People say, "Oh, how do you do readings from your home and things like that?" It doesn't freak me out at all. Like, I've got
no,
no fear. I don't feel any of that anymore. But I understand, because how I felt when I first started.
mm,
I had some experiences that I was kind of like, "What the heck was that?" Um,
yeah,
yeah. So I'll go into that after. But yeah, so that's my main thing. And then I think for people having a sense of control. So when I'm, you know, when my energy is open, I'm connected. When I'm not, I'm closed. You know, my chakra energy is closed off to outside influence, let's say.
Yeah.
I think just getting that control over things makes people feel a lot safer. Um,
Yeah.
I know now that, you know, if spirit want to come in to see me, they will. Sometimes
Oh,
you just can't, you know, if there's something to be said, you know, but most of the time they do respect my boundaries and they know when I'm working and when I'm not. You know, I used
yeah.
to feel a spirit next to my bed. I don't have that very much anymore because I'm
Yeah.
working and I'm not. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. That is beautiful, and that's really important to know. I think where a lot of the fear comes from is the first of all is Hollywood, right?
oh,
Is
definitely. Mood.
it's it's the picture that's being portrayed. You know, psychics. You know, they evil, or they just take your money, or spirits are here to they possess you type thing, right? So like you said, it's really important to understand that that's not the case for most. Surely, yes, it can happen. There are circumstances that there are energies out there that can, but 99.9% of the time, it literally is like you say, they're just coming to say hi. So
Yeah, yeah.
can you, you said, I was going to ask you, can you remember your first encounter with spirit? Can you actually remember your first encounter with spirit?
That was the guy that I said
The
about.
guy next to your
Yeah.
bed.
That was really
Okay.
interesting because he was obviously the first spirit that I remember seeing.
Yeah.
It scared the heck out of me, but he was quite opaque and he had this glow to him, and I could see his whole body, and he was just standing over me and just looking at me. Um, yeah, and I've obviously had experiences since then. I had a friend, she was very open to spirit. She's moved to
Mm.
Tasmania now, but she was in Perth for, I think I knew her for about 3 years, let's say. And we used to get together and chat all the time. So while I was talking to her, and obviously my gifts were opening up because of our conversations, I was seeing a lot of people next to my bed at night and having dreams that were coming true. And yeah, so all of the spirits that I'd seen after him were all different looking. They didn't have that glow and things like that.
Yeah, wow.
So yeah, I have come to realize over the years that he's my main guide. And yeah, the way he shone, it was like a glow. It was beautiful.
Different. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was really cool. Scary at the time, but you know, looking back, I do realize now what it was all about. It's kind of like
Yeah.
that moment opened everything for me. Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting. It's bringing back a lot of memories for me. As a kid, I didn't grow up in a spiritual home at all. But I can remember as a young kid, my parents would ask us to go and, for instance, go and get something from their bedroom. And I had to walk down this corridor, like it was like this lightning shaped corridor. Going down, you could switch lights on, but when you came back, you needed to switch all those lights back off. And I can remember running from the front, from the back, from the bedroom, running up to the front where my parents were, because I could literally feel spirit. I could see spirit. I could hear spirit behind me, like footsteps, and I can, like, they wanted to make connection. I can remember as a kid lying in bed and pulling sheets over my head and going, "Oh my God." So I've got all these little, all these interactions, but it's only later on in life that I kind of, you know, made the connection, that I actually can communicate with spirit, right? Now with me, so like for instance, you've taken your gift and you use it on a day-to-day basis. Whereas I know, I am a medium as well. I can connect with spirit. But I use it only on very seldom, like very specific occasions would spirit come through. So it's it's um it's been helpful with some clients. But yeah, it's not something that I kind of tap into for my day to day or with my clients. So you can
Yeah.
have all those skills and not use it.
Yeah, definitely.
potentially in your work. But yeah.
Yeah, I like to think of it as like a muscle. It's like building up your biceps. You know, if you don't do
Yeah.
anything, they're not going to be working to their full potential, are they? But if you're building them
No,
up, you know,
you
and
build
you're
them up, you can use
practicing
them.
and using them all the time, then you know they're there to be used. And you know, it's also in your energetic boundaries. Like for me, that's
Yeah.
part of what I do and part of who I am. But for you, it's like I'll use that occasionally, and that's all I need. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, it's been an interesting journey. And it's I think it's I want to come back, just I want to bring it right back to when we're talking about kind of starting out doing things. And I think there's two things that are really important on this journey, and it is about it's play. Play is really important to lighten it, and the creative side as well is to play, make it fun. That's why we do the games, you know, the traffic light game that I play and the games that you play, because creativity and play has a it's almost the key to unlocking or telling your subconscious mind that wants to keep you safe, tells your subconscious mind that it's actually okay to
yeah.
listen to your intuition, and it's okay to connect to spirit. So yeah, play is really, really important.
Yeah, definitely keep it light and just explore, just have fun exploring and yeah,
Yeah,
take the pressure off. So many people, you know, that I work with put so much pressure on themselves to get it right. And I'm just like, don't worry about what happens. Just play, just, you know, have fun and just take
yeah,
that pressure off yourself. It's so it's really interesting. Like, and I've gone through it as well. You have as well, probably. Like we all just put this self-imposed pressure that we have to get it right the first time and we, you know, we
yeah,
can't make mistakes and but you know making the mistakes in all you know in your exploration is the best teaching ever because that's when you know when it felt right or felt wrong, you know. Oh,
yeah,
I got that wrong, but now I understand what that feels like to get it wrong. You know, so
yeah,
I would say like yeah, that's a really big thing that I learned. Don't be afraid, don't be afraid to explore and get things wrong. And I've got to say the moment that I made that decision in myself, I kind of went, excuse my language, fuck it. I'm going to say everything and anything that comes in. And if I get it wrong, I
that's
get
it.
it wrong. And that moment, that class I went to that night was the moment things changed for me because I just went,
Yeah,
no, no more holding myself back. Just put it out there. And who cares if
yeah,
you get it wrong? Because, you know, classes are a safe environment. So you shouldn't care about, you know, getting things wrong. So, yeah.
no. And you know what I think, and you would have had this too, is that sometimes you get the weirdest thing come up, and you go, I can't say that, and then spirit goes, say
Yeah.
it, and
Yeah.
then you say it, and then they go, oh my God, that is like how do you know, like what, that is the craziest connection, and then that just that's just one of those beautiful moments when you go, you know, you can trust. It doesn't matter how crazy it is.
I had a group here once and I was connecting for one of the girls and I was like, I think it was someone's father that was coming through, and I kept saying anus. He kept saying like anus, bum, like all this stuff, and I knew it wasn't how he passed away. But I'm like, how do I started laughing? I said, I don't really want to say this, and then they all said, just say it. And I said, he's talking about someone's bum or anus. I said, and he's laughing, and then she starts laughing. She goes, oh my god, my you know my husband's got had a really I think it was a big bad scar on his butt cheek, and his dad always used to laugh at him about it. So
Yeah.
for her that was perfect because she was just like, oh my god, how you wouldn't have known that, you know. So yeah, bits like that sometimes you just have to go, yeah, I'm gonna say it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I don't know why, but this is what I'm getting. Yeah, it's perfect. It's definitely it's a beautiful journey. It's amazing to have that connection to the divine. It's amazing to have that connection um with spirit, with soul, right? So if if there's one thing that you can leave with the audience, if there's one suggestion, one tool, one technique, one truth that you can leave with them as they perhaps start on this journey with their psychic skills or with becoming a medium or connection with spirit, what would that be?
I would just say one of the big I mean there's so much I could say, but one of the biggest learning things for me is just be yourself. Don't try and just honor yourself, honor your own soul journey, your own soul path. Don't try and emulate anybody else. I think we can all do that at times, especially when we're learning, we're learning off different people. But I really think just honor yourself. Just follow your path, work on you. Don't try and be like anybody else, because I think if you can just be completely true to you, you're going to get the right people come to you. If you are learning, wanting to work in this field, and even if you're just using it for your own intuition, just being completely yourself, warts and all.
Warts and all.
I mean, I think the more people that can come out and portray, that we're not all perfect. There's so many people out there portraying perfection, and I think it's great to honor the fact that we're not all perfect. We're all working on things. Even people who are working in this spiritual field, none of us are perfect, and just honor that and just be true to it. And and I have people in my classes who get a bit upset because they might say to themselves, I can't get into that heartfelt space where I'm bringing things out all beautifully and airy fairy, not airy fairy, I shouldn't say that,
but well articulated.
But that's practice, right? No one, not all of us are from straight away from that space. So I just say to them, just be yourself, just don't worry about that for now, it'll come with time. But all you can do, the best thing you can do right now is be yourself. Don't try and be like anybody else. So that would be my number one thing.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's a really powerful one. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. I'm mindful of the time. It's the 6th of the 6th today. I'm just looking at the numbers, and it's 1 minute past 11. So it's all the 1 So I love that. I love how we get these little signs from the universe, right? Before we close off, was there anything that you felt called to speak into around anything really? I don't want to limit it to psychic and medium stuff. Was there anything that you still felt that you kind of wanted to speak into or mention or share with the audience?
Just pinging when we went back and talked about the timeline and how things kind of work together, to get me to where I am today. I look back and I look back at my whole life, right? We've all done that at times. And I look back and think about all the jobs that I've had and things like that. So I would, what am I trying to say here? So, I used to work in a deli where I had to deal with people. And then I worked in a childcare centre where I was constantly dealing with people. And then I worked at births, deaths and marriages for 13 years. That was, in that time, I was dealing with funeral directors and, obviously liaising with families who had lost loved ones. And then I was conducting for a little while marriages. I think I did 72 marriages. So that's all helped me in my confidence in my mediumship, because sometimes we do events and things where we're standing up in front of a lot of people, and then I also did jiu-jitsu with my husband for a number of years before I had my hip replacement, but that all helped me with my confidence. So I think a big thing, I look back and I kind of look at how everything like that played into where I am today. I'd say to people, don't just concentrate on the spiritual side of things, because I think we can go so deeply into that we kind of forget about the other things in life as well sometimes. So it's getting that balance between everything. So working on your confidence, exercising, doing all of those kind of things. Take my own advice with the exercise a bit more. But building on the other things in life as well as the spiritual side of things, because spirituality can be a bit of a rabbit hole that we go down. So just being aware of that side of things as well, and how there's just as much importance on that side of things as the spiritual journey. So it's kind of your life and that the spiritual path run parallel.
You bring up a really important point there, is that because you will always find in the spiritual spaces, you'll find these people who are just so airy fairy and they all spiritual and happy and all these, and they get caught there. They're not grounded people, and it's really important to be grounded, and being grounded means life. It means family, it means your job, it means working out in the garden, cutting the lawns, it means cleaning your house, it means being, and that's the balance that you're talking about. That's the, you know, the groundedness with the spirituality. I think also one of those things that we've done is we've created a divide with spiritual and non-spiritual. And the truth is that life is spiritual.
Yeah, yeah. With the whole
Whether
human
you,
experience.
the whole experience
Mm.
is is spiritual. The whole experience is life. And you know, once you, like, from my perspective, once you tap into awareness and intuition, which everybody has, right? Every person on this planet has awareness. Every person on this planet has intuition. And if you don't talk about intuition, everybody's got that gut feeling. You know,
Definitely.
even when you was a kid, you're like, I knew he was going to take that thing from me, or I knew he was going to be trouble, or I knew we were going to win this game. So we all have that. And the more we bring awareness and intuition into life, the more you experience life as a spiritual experience. And there's no divide. So yeah, that's really important that you've just said, is that it is about balance. Yeah, beautiful. Nikki, thank you so much for coming on today's episode. It was really lovely to sit and have this conversation with you and to hear your story. You said a few things that I didn't know about you, so it was really lovely to hear that part of your journey. If you guys want to connect with Nikki, know more about her, what I will do is I will have all of her contact details in the show notes for you. So please reach out to Nikki. And was there something else? Feels like there's something else, but it's not popping into my head. So I'm just going to leave it there. So thank you for joining me on the episode. Thank you for listening today, guys, and we'll catch you on the next episode.
Thanks, Leonie.
Thanks, Nikki. Bye.